this is what I'm going for. A Nacho Libre inspired costume of sorts. I was gonna have you guys guess, but I was just a little too excited. I picked the fabrics, cut them out, blam, blam, lining outside, and this is a curved seam. So I didn't pin this one, I sewed it as I went because it's a little easier to maneuver that way. Ta-da! Now that's a curved seam if I've ever seen one. And then sewed the rest of the panels together. She's looking a little rough so far, but she's got a little ways to go. Just wanted to pin her on and make sure that she was gonna fit. Here I am stitching a seam to make an invisible zipper. So I stitched it and then I pressed it and then I stitched the zipper onto the inside of that. Once you're done with that, you can take your seam ripper and open it up and voila, there's an invisible zipper. Next, I just had to brag, I got this for like $12. It's like 10 yards at a thrift store. I had to make my own bias tape, so I sewed that all together and pressed it. This process was a little bit more tedious and I got a little better at it as I went on, but had to get those bias tapes somehow. Next, you gotta sew the lining to the other piece of the front part. These are those bias tapes I told you about that I'm going to use as the channeling for the bones for the corset to keep it nice and rigid. I made sure I took my time and didn't do any drunk driving here, so my lines are straight and the bones will fit. I use this part to make sure that I sew everything together as well so the lining isn't slipping around. Next, we smooth out the edges. This is wriggling boning. And then we add those to the channels that we sewed on earlier. So finally onto the straps. I sewed those on separately because they're going to be a lot longer so I can tie them into bows. But this one I sewed inside out. I made the mistake so you don't have to. And then I unsewed it and sewed it again. So finally I pressed them out once I got it right. And uh-oh, problems. It's a little too short, the lining, so I'm going to have to adjust it. I don't even know how that happened. I'm just a beginner over here. I don't even know what I'm doing technically. You guys are learning along with me. So I came up a little bit higher here and decided to cut it. And made a sort of binding to put over the edges. And later I decided that I wanted it to be a little bit thinner. So I went in with a bit of a thinner piece. And this was tedious as heck. I was so nervous. Ta-da! I did it though! Hooray! Now the front's sewed to the back and the sides and the red and the blue and now all we have left to do is put those little holes, which I believe are called grommets. So I punched the holes here. And it didn't punch all the way through at first, so I had to take it into the garage and really have a go with it. And finally it went through. Use my little tool here, which I believe the technical term is called a circle smasher. Laced it all up with some pretty red ribbon. And here she is, looking pretty heckin' good. Still have a few more pieces to make, so if you want to see the rest of it, like and subscribe and come back next week, and I will post more things for you. Okay, bye!